Hi everyone, Bruno Recommends Records here, and today all your questions about Angine de Poitrine are finally gonna be answered. So sit down and buckle up, because this is gonna be the ride you've been waiting for. Angine de Poitrine are a mainly instrumental duo from Quebec, part of the French Canada, who became a big sensation online after the Seattle radio station KEXP posted in February of this year a live performance from them recorded in December of 2025 for the Transmusical festival that occurred in Rennes, France. They are also known for playing microtonal music and hiding their true identity with Dada polka-dotted absurdist masks, assuming themselves as 333 years old time-space voyagers.
Votre histoire est née d'une amitié, messieurs ou mesdames, je ne sais pas. Vous vous connaissez depuis l'âge de 13-14 ans. Vous dites venir d'une autre planète, avoir 333 ans.
Who speak a distorted sound unknown language. They also said in an interview that their long noses were inspired by the proboscis monkey of Borneo. And that in their homeland, everyone's clothes and skin are filled with dots. There are also some people who believe that the allusion to the pyramid shape is connected to the Ha Pyramid, which is a contemporary art monument in their hometown, Saguenay. Yes and no. Well, their band name is actually a French term, and some of their songs, when pronounced, have some similarities with French Quebecois slang, although not all of them. Sherpa refers to an indigenous ethnic group native to the mountainous regions of Nepal and the Himalayas, renowned for their mountaineering expertise. Tohog is an anagram for hot dog. Timebis sounds similar to time bits, which is an allusion to their signature mix of polyrhythmic grooves and microtonal soundscapes, or tam baiser, which means I want to have sex with you in French. Ababa Hotel might be a reference to a hotel in Addis Ababa, which is the capital of Ethiopia. Sahardinier is a play on the word sardines with the expression ça sert à rien, that literally translates to useless or without any use. Laberec is another anagram, this time for Lepage, a small town in the Saguenay region in Quebec where the band comes from. Fabien is a reference to their producer and video director's name, Fabien Peterson, who supposedly in their alien language earns a K in the end of both names, being Fabien Peterson. Matacyclette sounds similar to the word motocyclette, who in French means motorcycle. Sarniez is speculated by the fans to sound like Sarniez or Saniez, meaning to mess around again. Uts being a song whose rhythmic structure roots on klezmer music might refer to uts, a Yiddish exclamation often used in US slang, like the whole shebang and uts, or uts in place of oops. Yor Sared might be a phonetic wordplay on Yora Satfe, which translates roughly to that'll be done, or at least that's out of the way. And finally, Angor, whose term refers to extreme mental distress, anguish, or severe anxiety, usually of physical origin. It stems from the Latin word ango, meaning to squeeze, choke, or strangle, also because it shares the Indo-European root ang, meaning tight, suffocating, or painful. Angor is closely tied to several other words used to describe discomfort or distress, such as angina, for example, who curiously in French is Angine, like the band's name. So, to pronounce the first word correctly, try to change the sound of an to on. Which will make it sound angine instead of engine. The second word might be the trickiest because it's meant to sound something in between a d and a do. So none and both at the same time, which will give you a d. And finally, let's divide the last word in two to make it easier. So let's start with poi, which is meant to sound like pois. And then you have trine, which is meant to sound like trine, meaning that you clench your teeth to get that double R sound. Tr. Also change the I for double E, and if you do that, you shall get poitrine. So, in one go, angine de poitrine. Well, it means angina pectoris, which is the clinical name for chest pain or discomfort that happens when your heart muscle don't get enough oxygen-rich blood. It is also a primary symptom of underlying coronary artery disease, abbreviated CAD, where fatty plaques narrow the arteries feeding the heart. So, something to be alert if you don't want to get a heart attack. No, microtonal is not a music genre. Microtonal music involves using musical intervals or pitches that are smaller than a semitone half step, or using tunings that differ from the standard Western 12-tone system. It breaks octaves into smaller, varying steps to unlock unique scales, harmonies, and emotional textures. A good comparison for the microtonal sound might be fretless instruments. If you listen to Jaco Pastorius, for example, when he hits a note, it sounds slightly out of tune, because usually he is putting his fingers over where the frets should be and not in between them like you would normally do. And that's pretty much how microtonal notes work, considering that in a standard instrument they're not even being used. Although microtonal is still uncommon, it's not something new. Some more well-known examples of musicians who use or used it in some of their songs are Steve Vai and King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, for example. Also, besides using a microtonal guitar and bass, Angine de Poitrine recurs a lot to a looper pedal too. A looper pedal is a device that records your instrument or voice in real time and plays it back continuously in a repeating loop. By overdubbing new layers on top of the original recording, you can build full backing tracks, craft ambient soundscapes, or create the illusion of a full band during live performances. That's why you constantly see Angine de Poitrine guitar and bass player using his feet over a pedal board on the floor. However, for a successful use of it, you have to be exact and precise with the tempo. A slight acceleration or deceleration can be more than enough to ruin the whole song that is being performed. The use of a looper pedal is also not new. Buskers use it all the time, being a good example, Lewis Floyd Henry, who I had the pleasure to watch performing in the streets of London quite a few times. Some more well-known cases in the music industry are Ed Sheeran, We also have Katie Tunstall, who I'll leave a link in the video description to one of her performances where you can clearly see how easily using a looper pedal can go wrong.
We have to start again. I did it too fast. I was too excited.
Also, way before looper pedals existed, Robert Fripp, with his Frippatronics, was one of the first exploring the concept of using recorded loops. By doing that, he was able to play over a tune without the need of having other musicians to help him with that. Angine de Poitrine don't have a specific music style, often oscillating between different music genres including jazz, Middle Eastern world music, and even some guitar shredding. Nonetheless, if we had to choose a category where they could better fit, it would be math rock for sure, being this the most common description used by both math rock listeners and those who don't listen to it at all, but nevertheless prefer to associate the band with something as unknown as their music sound to them. Other non-math rock listeners prefer to define them as prog and krautrock, which is completely understandable, especially if we pick one of the bands that they are most compared with, Primus. Now, I know that Primus is not prog or kraut, and even less math rock, but when we consider that one of Les Claypool's biggest influences in terms of his unique playing approach is undoubtedly Tony Levin's Chapman stick used during King Crimson's Discipline, I think that the comparison gets justified by itself. Math rock is a style of alternative and indie rock with roots in bands such as King Crimson, Yes, and Rush. It is characterized by complex, atypical rhythmic structures, including irregular stopping and starting, counterpoint, odd time signatures, and extended chords. Math rock has been classified as derivative or subgenre of experimental rock, sharing its avant-garde ethos and emphasis on through-composed structure rather than traditional song forms. To some people who were introduced quite recently to Angine de Poitrine sound, certain songs of them are even considered unlistenable, which might be related to some parts that delve more into a noise rock and experimentalist avant-garde approach. However, from a math rock listener to someone completely new to the genre, if you want a good example of something genius but quite unlistenable, well, try to go for Yaoi, for example. I would also start by checking Don Caballero, Terry Mallows, and Light to better understand the genre. Their oversized papier-mâché masks and matching polka dot suits were in part created to maintain absolute anonymity.
Par rapport à l'anonymat, je pense qu'il n'y en a pas tant que ça.
Parce que ça amuse, on spécule.
Ça amuse, oui, il y a du jeu là-dedans. Je pense que la proposition, elle est très claire. Il y a quelque chose là-dedans où est-ce que les musiciens sont extrêmement talentueux. La proposition, on la voit.
Their signature look originated in 2019 as a practical joke so they could perform back-to-back shows at the same local venue without the audience realizing it was the same band. The disguises have since evolved into a core conceptual art project. By hiding their faces and painting over every inch of exposed skin, the two musicians, who go by the stage pseudonyms
Ken, tu es le guitariste-bassiste du duo. Clec, tu es le batteur.
are able to separate their performance personas from their real lives. Their absurd, alien-like look and intense anonymity have helped them go viral and amass a massive global following for their technically complex music.
Angine de Poitrine est actuellement un phénomène viral sur le web partout dans le monde. Leur premier album, volume 1, est paru en 2024, mais tout a explosé il y a un mois après la diffusion d'une de leurs performances qui a été captée dans un festival en France.
Other well-known examples of artists who used masks and face painting in the past to hide their true identities are Kiss, The Residents, War, Green Jelly, and Slipknot, between many others. In part, yes, one of the main reasons why they became viral so quickly started with how weird they look. However, if it wasn't for the complexity and originality of their music, I believe that most of the reaction videos that were posted online would have never existed. They are also not the first and probably not the last example in that sense. Music history is replete with artists who'd probably never got so famous if it wasn't for their image, no matter how good their music is. The Beatles, for example, made good use of their suits and mod haircuts to climb faster on the ladder, which became the norm for lots of artists since then until mid-60s. We can also wonder what would have been of David Bowie without his 1972 national TV live performance where he appeared dressed as Ziggy Stardust for the first time. What about Prince? What about Madonna? And the list goes on and on and on. Well, only time will tell. However, if we look at the band's evolution, which started with their previous project, Lepage, they have been abandoning more and more the math rock cliché to embrace newer genres and musical approaches, as well as new ways to explore the microtonal tone and the use of the looper pedal. The possibilities are endless. And even if newer projects come out trying to sound like them, it will be hard not to be considered copycats. That's how unique they became. I also believe that what we have is just the beginning, which will only be affected if the band becomes tired of this format, which wouldn't be the first time they would abandon the project in favor of a better one, or at least in their own opinion. Lepage, initially formed in 2013, changed the way their name was written quite a few times until 2022, before their terminus. They are also from Saguenay, Quebec, Canada, and besides being a guitar drum duo as well, last time they played live, they shared the stage with the first incarnation of Angine de Poitrine, and this according to some people who were present, which coincidentally matches the story behind Angine de Poitrine's origins. They only released physically one CD, which is quite rare to find, but the music is still available for download, and you can even pay whatever you want through their bandcamp. You can also find a few photos online of this unmasked project, as well as a YouTube channel with a small live performance, and their names are also available through their page on discogs. Although Angine de Poitrine never confirmed it, due to its anonymity intention, it's more than obvious that we are talking about the same musicians here. You don't believe me? I'll leave the links down below in the video description so you can confirm it for yourselves. Well, that's because until these latest reissues, which are already on the 10th for Volume 1, over here on the top of the barcode, you have something that says PRP PX and X for 10 in Roman, and the 5th volume for Volume 2. So the same thing, but you will find a PV, which means P5 in the Roman numeration. Before this came out, you could only find second-hand copies for sale online who were already going between the 3 and the 4 digits, depending on which edition it was. Let's say that a first self-released edition is completely out of a lot of people's reach.
Décoller, parce que la demande est tellement forte pour Angine de Poitrine que Volume 1 est parmi les disques les plus en demande en ce moment sur le site Discogs. Certains sont prêts jusqu'à payer 1500 $ pour mettre la main dessus.
Le groupe et nous, l'album se vend au même prix que ce soit en spectacle, en magasin. Après ça, les gens,
Mais là, c'est un collector.
C'est vraiment un collector, ouais, effectivement. Puis l'autre qui est à côté de toi, il n'est pas encore sorti, donc fais attention, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire avec?
2000.
Therefore, because a larger number of copies were finally put available through physical and online shops last month, people finally have been able to acquire both records for only their retail price. And that's why the Angine de Poitrine hype began for the vinyl community. Well, it depends on your taste. If you watch their performance on KEXP, that's pretty much what you're gonna get. If you're expecting a very energetic live performance, probably forget about it. If you enjoyed what you saw online and you're into a good musicianship show, go ahead, and I'm pretty sure you won't regret it. So this is it. I hope I clarified all your questions about Angine de Poitrine, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Cheers and take care.
From out of the pages of DC Comics comes the world's newest and greatest superhero, Plastic Man. He can spring, he can stretch, he can fly, he can bounce, he can change his shape, and he can even dance. Each week, Plastic Man will face the world's greatest collection of villains. There's action. There's comedy. There's danger. There's Penny. There's Bad Luck Hula. There's plenty for everybody on the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Show.
Eat your heart out, Pete.